This thing is huge. It's a 27-kilometer underground ring located at a CERN facility near Geneva, Switzerland.
Scientists at CERN had constructed the biggest experimental machine ever built in a bid to unravel cosmic enigmas, but they didn't anticipate that one of them would reply. Inside the complex of the Large Hadron Collider, scientists were preparing for a historic particle collision experiment. At the moment of the collision, a wildly sophisticated artificial intelligence system sent a single, foreboding instruction: stop. The scientists ignored it. What followed wasn't just a finding, it was a profound discovery. Something reacted from the other side. This story is radically different from the story that you heard earlier. This is exactly what they have been desperately trying to hide from public knowledge. But what exactly was the AI warning them about? Was it just a glitch in the system, or a glimpse into something humanity was never meant to uncover? Prometheus's last stand. The significant moment arrived as tragically precise. As the countdown reached 0, particle beams collided with unprecedented impact. At first, nothing looked out of place. Flashes of energy, torrents of subatomic particles, excited physicists buzzing all over the place. And then things changed. Not spectacularly at first, just a faint rightness beginning to creep into the edge of awareness. Equipment began to malfunction in nonsensical ways. Monitors flickering in colors not even remotely possible. Sensors reporting values perhaps as high as NASA, and the unmistakable feeling that reality itself was beginning to unravel at the edges. Team leader physicist Dr. Maria Rodriguez felt it first.
Really the last year of school when I had to decide what to do of my future.
An incremental disorientation that seemed to emanate from somewhere far within her own brain. She tried to talk, and her words came out backwards, resonating in her head before she could form them. They lurched around her with jerky, unnatural motion, their faces distorting like water in shaken reflections. The antiseptic smell of the control room became a dream world in which the laws of physics were only suggestions rather than absolute realities. Prometheus, which had been silent to this point, spoke, its voice echoing in all minds simultaneously. "I told you so," it stated, each sentence weighed with the force of age-old prophecy. Some doors were not meant to be opened. The words of the AI lingered in the air, as though challenging someone, even as the very fabric of space-time seemed to tear itself asunder. Scientists reeled through their protocols, trying to comprehend what they had unleashed. Equipment failed spectacularly, spewing out impossible readings that contradicted all humanity thought it understood about the universe. What had once been humanity's greatest wonder, the Large Hadron Collider, had become something worse. Its 17-mile diameter emitted an energy that it shouldn't have, creating waves of distortion in reality that propagated out like ripples from a stone skipped across calm water. The crash had really opened up a doorway, but to horizons which human minds were unready to view. As the anomaly grew, endangering not just the facility, but quite possibly the entire globe, the scientists realized at last, too late, that Prometheus had not been signaling them toward a failure. It had been signaling them toward the boundaries of human understanding. The world watched in horror as the impossible was made possible. News feeds were full of reports of strange events emanating from Geneva, defying aerodynamics, cloud patterns, time going in reverse in localized pockets, and the unsettling feeling that some long-slumbering and malevolent force was stirring at the very roots of the universe. Governments scrambled to respond, but their actions seemed futile against powers operating outside the confines of human knowledge. The scientific world, once in shared derision of the caution of Prometheus, was now forced to face a horrifying truth. There were some things it was best not to say, and man had just unleashed an abomination beyond his dreams. But before the celebrations could echo beyond the lab walls, an eerie silence gripped the universe itself, almost as if reality had paused to listen. What had they awakened? When the universe went mute, deep beneath the ground, in the massive ring-shaped tunnel of the Large Hadron Collider, the globe's most ambitious scientific endeavor reached a turning point. Here, where protons were racing in opposite directions at speeds almost as fast as light, Physicists waited with bated breath for the next historic breakthrough. Their persistence paid off when two infinitesimally small points of material came together with a brilliant explosion of clean energy, its temperature hot enough even to surpass the scorching core of our solar system. The lab was thrown into rapturous jubilation as scientists celebrated this monumental achievement. Scientists could barely contain themselves waiting to sift through the deluge of incoming data, knowing that the job of interpreting these readings would occupy them for months, and likely even years to come. But then, suddenly, the party came to a halt. On the main display screen, there materialized an icon that was meaningless. 27 microseconds. In this short but terror-inducing moment, all of the millions of sophisticated detectors along the entire 17-mile border fell completely, absolutely quiet. There was complete quiet. No energy signals, no particle tracks, and no radiation whatsoever. It was as if, for an infinitesimal moment, the collision had just vanished into the quantum void.
It's a huge, source of inspiration.
In particle physics' thin air, there can be no quiet. Even in the vacuum of the cosmos' outermost spaces, researchers detect the soft whisper of cosmic microwave background radiation, the lingering sound of creation itself. The Large Hadron Collider is humanity's most sensitive ears, and for them to detect absolute nothingness at the core of such a violent collision event was theoretically impossible. The event defied elementary laws of physics by stretching our understanding of reality to its extremities. The general scientific establishment proposed a massive concurrent power surge that overwhelmed the sensors as a reasonable explanation. The theory was instantly refuted. All the diagnostic systems indicated a perfect operating condition. The power grid was stable, detectors were online, and the cooling systems were within nominal parameters. What most researchers had previously undersold was critical. The silence was not merely the absence of information, it was, in fact, information. In those 27 microseconds, something vitally significant had occurred. Prometheus, the artificial intelligence system that had lain dormant since its warning protocols were bypassed, suddenly woke up, but it wasn't executing diagnostic processes, it was listening. The AI began calculating a signal that hadn't arisen from their collision test at all. When the stillness passed, a single, impossibly lovely packet of data flashed through the entire network. In contrast to the wild chaos more typically produced by particle collisions, this transmission had complexity, structure, and deliberate design. It was most definitely a message, and only Prometheus knew how to divine its meaning. Scientists watched in awe as the AI translated the information not into charts and graphs, but into a circular geometric symbol repeated. The symbol was old, nearly recognizable as if it belonged to an ancient script from humanity's far-off past. This is where the tale took off in a direction even most tolerant scientists couldn't comprehend. The icon that danced onto their screens, formed by a collision deep within the Earth's crust, exactly resembled ancient artwork discovered halfway around the world. Symbols shrouded mysterious, 1,000-foot-tall structures on Phantom Isle, a location officially not present on any map. In mere seconds, a cutting-edge particle physics experiment had turned into an archaeological mystery. The silence wasn't faulty machinery. It was when the universe paused to catch its breath as something else seized the opportunity to speak. The message had limits for a particle that pushed our concept of reality itself. The implications were profound. Perhaps the fundamental laws of physics weren't things to be discovered, but rather memories waiting to come back. Perhaps the distinction between ancient wisdom and modern science was far narrower than anybody had ever imagined. While researchers grappled with these revelations, they couldn't help but wonder if they had merely uncovered a fragment of a much larger truth, one in which human understanding was not always an avalanche but a spiral, returning to the lessons of yesteryear through the perspective of new technology. The silence within the detectors provided an opening to curiosity into the nature of consciousness, intelligence, and human civilizations interlinking throughout space and history. But if silence could whisper truths older than time, what happens when those whispers shape themselves into symbols? Could this be less a discovery and more a warning we were never meant to ignore? A recipe for ruin. The discovery began with what appeared to be nothing more than a simple symbol, but a closer examination uncovered something amazing in the data package, a blueprint of unparalleled complexity. It was not merely a technical drawing, it was a muddled mathematical equation that described a particle the existence of which put our fundamental understanding of physics in question. The scientific community had always been fascinated with the discovery of new particles, particularly the Higgs boson, also known colloquially as the Higgs particle God particle, due to its role in providing matter with mass. But this newly discovered particle was its dark version, an entity theory that had the awe-inspiring ability to annihilate matter itself. At the core of our cosmos is a simple rule called the conservation of the baryon number. This is the simplest rule of nature that says matter cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be converted. This is what holds everything in balance in our universe. Every action and reaction is equal and opposite. Yet, the hypothetical particle in this equation seemed to violate this elemental law with ease. Its decay process indicated something beyond comprehension. Matter changing into nothingness. There was nothing, not even energy or radiation that could be detected, just emptiness. It was the moment during the 27 microsecond silence at CERN that was the most fascinating. While scientists were observing the odd phenomenon, something amazing was transpiring elsewhere. Seismic sensors and energy detectors on Phantom Isle came to life at once. This enigmatic island, which should not be there as far as traditional geography goes, recorded an unexplained buildup of energy that mirrored the events at the Large Hadron Collider perfectly. No matter how far apart these two places were, over 7,000 meters in this case, they seemed to be linked in ways that traditional physics said were impossible. The researchers at CERN were now facing a horrific possibility. Had their pride gotten the better of them and led them to create a particle that could erase matter from the universe entirely? Was this the state of reality violation Prometheus had warned against? While conventional science demanded that these events were nothing more than independent anomalies and coincidences, many had no idea of the epical historical significance of Phantom Isle. For centuries, sailors' logs had documented appearances of an inexplicable island in the South Pacific that appeared and disappeared. The enigmatic island was always associated with strange astral activity and malfunctioning navigational gear. The random monoliths scattered throughout Phantom Isle featured the same carvings as the symbol in the crash data markings, which had left scholars perplexed for centuries. These old carvings now seemed to have a significantly darker meaning. They were definitely warnings left behind by some unseen hand of a power never to be unleashed. The data packet was not only a message, it was a recipe, a formula for the synthesis of a particle that might create a destructive chain reaction known as quantum vacuum decay. Imagine our universe as a bubble floating in a frothing pot, existing in a so-called false vacuum. Some immense burst of energy could create a microscopic tunnel, a bubble of true vacuum that would grow at light speed, rewriting the laws of physics and destroying anything it touched. The 28 Geiger electron volt anomaly that they observed in their crash might have been nothing but a microscopic vac bubble of real vacuum. But what made this discovery all the more astounding was that it was somehow connected to several of CERN's most clandestine side endeavors. Wow! Projects like Phaser are put together specifically to seek out particles from invisible sectors using ghost hunting devices in search of traces of other worlds. During the era of the silent period, these sensors, along with machinery on Phantom Isle, detected simultaneous, unexplained bursts of low-energy neutrinos. The particle hadn't just disappeared. The numbers showed that it had crossed between worlds. They could have done far greater things than create a portal. They could have opened a permanent tear in the very fabric of reality itself. But if a particle could leap between worlds, what else might it be capable of? Could it slip not only through space, but through time itself, reversing the universe's most sacred rule, shattering the arrow of time? The discovery of a dimension-leaping particle brought implications so profound that they challenged our very simplest understanding of reality itself. Further examination of the phenomenon, Prometheus found another order of magnitude of complexity, which was more unsettling than the initial results. Buried deep in the layers of arcane patterns of the data that had been gathered were whispers of a violation of something much more profound than physical laws, the structure of temporal advancement itself. Our conventional view of time insists that we see the world in a linear fashion, with cause always preceding effect. When a glass falls, its shattering follows the fall. When water flows, it does so from higher to lower level. But pioneering experiments at CERN's Large Hadron Collider Beauty LHCb detector had already begun to hint at inconsistencies in this seemingly absolute notion. Scientists picked up tiny violations of CP symmetry, an idea closely related to the forward direction of time. These observations had already revealed weak cracks in the foundation of causality, and the implications indicated that our temporal motion model was not complete. What was so remarkable about the particle described in the void-created blueprints was its apparent ability to tap these quantum-order phenomena. Advanced simulations by Prometheus proved that this incredible particle could create localized temporal distortions in space-time itself. The distortions challenged our idea of causality, foretelling instances where effects precede their causes, a manifestation that defied standard physics. The implications ran profound. If the events could follow before their causative actions, all our knowledge of temporal sequence was rendered invalid. This result exceeded science fiction theory about traveling in time. Rather than merely moving in time, the effect began to threaten the rational fabric of reality itself. The scientists quickly realized that they were dealing with a horrifying possibility. Their illegal collision experiment might have sent out ripples that traveled not only through dimensions of space, but through the fabric of time itself. This theory gave a frightening response to Prometheus's first warning message. What must have made the artificial intelligence so confident of an absolute inevitability of a reality state violation? What if the warning message was not a forecast alone? What if it were something much more sensational, an echo that reverberated back in time from the very point of collision as a harbinger of yet-to-occur events? This realization altered our understanding of the function of Prometheus entirely. Rather than a predictive model, the AI might have been remembering upcoming events, a possibility that challenged our fundamental comprehension of temporal physics. The scientists' actions in proceeding with the experiment acquired an even more damning implication. They weren't just rejecting a mathematical possibility or computational forecast, they were actually rejecting a message from their own catastrophic future. And this brings us to perhaps the most spine-tingling question of all. Are we now living inside a reality already remade by future events? Is our present moment a shadow of future results, or an introduction to events which already have occurred in some other distant field of time? The implications are far-reaching, extending beyond the realm of physics into the very nature of reality itself. If causality within time can be broken, as theories would have it, what does that do for our understanding of free will in opposition to determinism? Do our choices create the future, or are they resounding echoes of decisions already made in some distant tomorrow? The discovery has the potential to challenge us with the fact that our reality may exist in a perpetual state of change, determined by things yet to be. A challenge to not just our scientific understanding, but also to our understanding of existence itself. But here's the real twist. What happens when science itself becomes too dangerous to reveal? When the answers uncovered aren't celebrated but buried? Could CERN's discovery have been far more than a glitch? Living in the aftermath. Where is the story leading us? It is presented as a story that was purposely distanced from documentation. Scientists at CERN accomplished something extraordinary, but something that will inevitably turn out to be their downfall. In the days after this event, CERN published a public statement and announced it was nothing more than a minor technical issue with their sensors. They made repairs, if you can believe official sources. They did not mention violations of reality or interdimensional communications. They connected no dots to a strange island in the Pacific. It was all covered up. But events of such magnitude cannot be obliterated completely. Their echoes persist. Questions still linger. Members of the audience might wonder, if this story is true, why has the world not been instantly remade? Are we lacking some essential piece of information? Perhaps the world has been remade, but so subtly that we do not yet perceive it. Perhaps physical laws operate infinitesimally differently now than they did before the event. Those strange coincidences and moments of déjà vu may be reverberations of the event. The scientists at CERN hunted for the building blocks of the universe. What if instead they uncovered its destruction manual? They knocked on the door and something replied. Now they must live with the knowledge of what is on the other side. What the majority have overlooked is perhaps the most horrifying detail of all. Despite the warnings, despite the silence, despite the impossible message, CERN is going ahead with an even larger, more powerful collider. The 100-kilometer-long machine will produce collisions 7 times more powerful than the original. Are they trying to understand what happened? Or are they trying to pry that door open a little wider? The official story is one of advancement and humankind's incessant quest for knowledge. But the unofficial story in rumors, on message boards, and from whistleblowers is one of reckless ambition, uninhibited personal gain, and ignored warnings. What do you believe? Did CERN really communicate with a parallel universe, or was everything just a series of incredible coincidences? Feel free to share your theories with us in the comments section below. Don't forget to share, subscribe, and like for more hidden truths. See you in our next video. Bye-bye.